Today on Locked On Red Wings, it is official. All three prospects, Emmitt Finnie, Axel, Sandin-Pellikka, and Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, make Detroit's opening night lineup.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find our episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. Scotty, we talked about it yesterday. The writing was on the wall. It was an educated guess yesterday. Today, it is reality. Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, Axel, Sandin-Pellikka, and Emmitt Finnie have all officially made the official 23-man roster for the Detroit Red Wings. Erik, Gustafsson, and Justin Holl both clear waivers. Justin Holl is sent down to Grand Rapids, while Erik Gustafsson remains on the roster for the time being. The reason why he's still on the roster is because JVR is on the non-roster because of the fact that he's still getting up to speed after the birth of his twins, so he's not ready for NHL action yet. So that opened up a roster spot to retain Erik Gustafsson. They have 30 days to send him down to the minors, or 10 NHL games to send him down to the minors before he has to clear waivers again, but they have that flexibility now. But that's obviously a side note here to what I have already stated in ASP, MBN, and Finnie making the roster. And Scotty, this is going to be basically a part two of the excitement that we had yesterday. Just now it's official excitement and not just, we don't have to caveat every single time we talk about it. It goes, assuming it happens.
It's not hypothetical excitement.
It's not hypothetical
it's
excitement.
Real excitement.
It's real excitement. So, I mean, the roster comes out at 3 o'clock-ish after the waiver wire gets announced. What were your initial thoughts seeing them officially crack the roster?
A lot of excitement, man. A lot of excitement. And it really goes back to all of what we alluded to a lot yesterday, which was just this is kind of, I don't know. I don't like saying the only thing they could have done to, again, inject some new talent onto the roster. But at this point in the calendar year, it dang near is the only thing they really could have done to add some new talent onto a roster that went largely untouched the entire summer. And I think that that's the most exciting part for me. Obviously, there's just always going to be excitement surrounding, highly regarded prospects making their debut, and especially when three are going to make their debut at the same time, the same night. That's obviously awesome. But I think that that's the biggest part for me is this is the Wings this year. This is their way of, okay, we swung and missed at all the big name free agents. We swung and missed in every trade that, hypothetical that we talked about all summer. How else can we make this roster not just the same for the third year in a row? Well, this is how you do it. And now this is all of a sudden a really fun, young, exciting team that you're hoping that injection of talent can get them over the hump. That's far from a guarantee. You're not trying to rely, strictly and solely on rookies to carry you to the postseason. But I think that this is a step at least.
Well, I mean, we finally arrived at what we've been wanting for so long, in having this be an Yzerman team. And it's been, don't get me wrong when I say that, this has been an Yzerman team since 2019, but we're finally seeing the full slate of Red Wings draft picks make this roster and begin to become and embody this roster, right? We now go from 6 Yzerman draft picks to 9 Yzerman draft picks on this roster, with 6 of those being first-round draft picks.
Crazy.
So the only first-round draft picks who are not on this roster currently are Sebastian Cossa and Nate Danielson, and then, of course, Carter Bear, who was just selected. And Nate Danielson very well could have been on this roster had he not gotten hurt. So on one hand, it's incredibly exciting because we have finally arrived to the point that we have been hoping for. The injection of the youth, the formation of Yzerman's core, which has been forming over the last several years, and it really kicked off in 2021 when Seider and Raymond made the team. But it's been kind of a slow go since then. It took 2 more years for Edvinsson to get here. And then Kasper this past year made his rookie debut. I know last year was Edvinsson's first full season, but technically it was his sophomore year in the eyes of the league. So now to have 3 guys all at once this season, it feels almost like it could be transformative. And I say could be because obviously making the initial 23-man roster does not guarantee they're going to stay there. And this is something, especially with a guy like Emmitt Finnie, but it goes for all 3 of these guys. They have to continually prove that they're NHL caliber players. Having an incredible preseason and a strong training camp does not necessitate they're going to stay on the roster all season long. Every single game from now until game 82 is going to be a tryout for these guys.
Yeah.
And when JVR comes off non-roster, it does not also mean that Erik Gustafsson is going to be the guy that goes down. They have that ability. They have that flexibility for the next 30 days that he can be the guy that gets sent down to Grand Rapids. But if Emmitt Finnie, is slowing up and proven that he needs more seasoning, well, you can easily send him down to the minors, and you have JVR and Jonathan Berggren that can be used in the forward core instead. So they have to continue to push. But this very well could be the start of what we've been asking for, because this team does not get anywhere without youth, without internal growth. I mean, you look at what the Montreal Canadiens did last year, and a lot of what happens last year does not happen without the emergence of Lane Hudson. But it was a large part. I mean, they got hot goaltending down the stretch, but their youth really drove that team to the playoffs. So I look at how this team's going to succeed and make the playoffs, and especially with the rising cap and nobody leaving their teams. Connor McDavid just signed an extension too, which I'm sure we'll touch on in segment 3. This is how it's got to happen. So while there may be growing pains, and I still think it's going to be tough to make the playoffs, if you're going to miss the playoffs, at least miss the playoffs playing the youth and seeing what they can get you, because that's how this team's going to grow into a contender, a true contender, not this fringy team they are now.
Yeah, 100%. And this, as I stated, this was their way to accommodate for a slower offseason and their way to do that. And I guess to your point, you look at the future of the Red Wings, you're hoping that they can get to a point someday, right? That's what we talked about. Oh, hope you then get to a point down the road where these guys that are highly regarded prospects in the farm are prominent players on those teams. Well, let's get the party started, man. You know what I mean? There's no point in waiting around to give minutes again to players of Justin Hall's caliber, or not even caliber. I don't want to slander him, but just that role, I guess, more so than the player. Okay, if you're, you know what I mean? You might as well just filter out some of the bottom of the roster and replace it with these prospects that you want to build around anyway. And that's seemingly what they're doing.
I mean, this is just an incredibly exciting moment for Red Wings fans. Obviously, like I said, they got to continue to prove it. But for this moment, it feels like it signals a real step forward in this organization's rebuild. It's going to continue to be considered a rebuild, even if it feels like rebuild should have been a term you did away with 2 years ago. We're still in a rebuild mode, and having the first-round picks and a seventh-round pick, which is a huge win, just him making an NHL roster as a seventh-round pick is a huge win. Is
top line
and top line, right?
Oh, I
right
love
out of the gate.
I love them.
But this is just a huge win for the organization and where they're going to go. And I expect some growing pains. I expect them not to be perfect, but I'd rather have guys who may struggle but also may grow into incredible players, or just solid NHL players, rather than have the vets on this team in their stead that what you have in them, and what you have in them is not nearly as good as these young guys can be with their growth. So, Scotty, let's head to a break. When we return, I'll give you the lines from practice. It's not going to sound unfamiliar. We've talked about these lines a lot. They're sticking with them, at least for the most part. Hopefully, these are the lines we see on Thursday. Stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Speaking of $5, Scotty, today I put $5 down on Emmitt Finnie, ASP, and MBN, all to win the Calder. Long odds, huge payout. Donating $15, but
something is wrong with you.
Well, to be fair, I had extra money to spare because I won that divisional bet for the Cleveland Guardians. So I'm putting that money right back in there. If one of those three breaks out and hits,
I hate you.
I'm going to be a happy man. And you can do that as well over at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, lines from practice today were Finnie, Larkin, Raymond, Kane, Kasper, DeBrincat, Kopp, Comfer, Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, Soderblom, Rasmussen, Appleton, JVR, and Berggren were your extras, and then your defensive pairs were Sherratt, Seider, Edvinsson, and ASP, Johansson, and Hamonic with JBD as your extra. This is just, you look at the lineup and the lines at practice, and you just see so much more potential with those three in the lineup than if they had ran it back with Holl, Gustafsson, Berggren. Like, we talked about this roster being marginally better in the depth after the free agency that they had. And yes, the free agency it was hard to get better through free agency this year, in particular because nobody left because, again, cap went up, everybody stayed put. But now you add MBN into the mix. Now you have ASP upside in the mix. And the surprise that is Emmitt Finnie, all of a sudden, and particularly the bottom six, I'm like, sneaky good. And I think I said that yesterday. I am legitimately excited to see what this lineup can do. And I think they're still thin defensively. But I'm legitimately excited to see what this roster can do with McClellan's play style, because that bottom six in particular is big, and it is heavy, and it has a little bit of a scoring touch. I think that is going to mesh so well with the heavy forechecking system that McClellan is trying to implement.
100%. I love the outlook of the bottom six. I love MBN on the third line. I think that line just has the ability to be a really good defensive line while also, I guess, to your point, not being hopefully like a slouch on the offensive side of the ice either. We get to see Rasmussen as a center a little bit more if that sticks as well down on the fourth line. So that'll be something interesting to keep an eye out for. But I think the biggest thing on here is ASP at second pair and Aljo at third. And I actually think that this is a scenario where Aljo has almost, what's the opposite of failed upwards? He's succeeded downwards. Where, you know what I mean? Like, I think this is a case where Aljo has looked really good in the preseason, and their third pair going into the training camp in the preseason was a black hole. It was the projections were two guys that are waived now. Like, it literally was the biggest, probably the biggest positional question mark on the team. It's just, it wasn't going to be talked about as much because at the end of the day, it's third pair. So I think that this is a situation where Aljo is, it's almost saying that he is good enough to be the kind of top dog, I guess I'll say, defenseman on the third pair. Now, again, it's
right.
The third pair, and there's going to be a huge minutes differential there. So, like, ultimately, I'm sure he will play plenty of second pair throughout the year. But I think that they are seeing if he can handle that, because that does, even if it doesn't stick and it's not a permanent thing, that does open the door for a lot more lineup card flexibility if he can be the top D-man on a third pair that plays whatever 12 minutes a night. So I think that that'll be really interesting. And then from the second pair perspective, I mean, if you have Edvinsson just being a dog defensively and taking another step forward and being a great all-around defenseman, and then the offense that ASP provides, that pair has the ability to legitimately be fireworks. So,
yeah, I think your third pair with Johansson on it is legitimately a good third pair. Because we saw him, and yes, there were moments last season down the stretch, especially where he seemed overmatched and exhausted because they had putting him in difficult situations all season long as a rookie. He's come back. He looks stronger. I think he'll handle third pair minutes better. And I do think Hamonic and JDB, whoever's rotating in or out, is a legitimate upgrade over Justin Holl. So you get the upgrade on the right side as well. So I think you're looking at a third pair that you can use in not nearly a sheltered situation. Still shelter them. They're your third pair in the end. But that allows a little bit more freedom for what I think will be probably a more sheltered second pair. And I don't mean that negative connotation, but because you have ASP, he's going to be your offensive zone defenseman. And you put him with Edvinsson, who led the Red Wings defense in 5-on-5 points last year. And Edvinsson's a great defenseman. I think he's a really good line mate for ASP, who's a rookie. Even though Edvinsson himself is still growing too, he's already shown that he can handle difficult usage. So if you put him with ASP in more favorable situations, I think that second pair is really going to thrive because of that. But I do think that it still means that Sherratt and Seider are going to get a lot of really difficult deployments. And that's the only thing that I'm a little... This is just what Moritz Seider is going to be given until, or if they ever do, give him or the second pair another really strong two-way defenseman or defensive defenseman. So it's going to be another year of Seider getting a bulk defensive zone deployments. He'll do well. He thrived last year despite it. It's just selfishly, there's that part of me that's like, I wish we could even out the deployments just a smidge. Like, he's always going to get your most difficult deployments because he's your number one defenseman, and he should because of that. But if they just weren't so extreme, I would love to see what kind of numbers offensively he could produce at 5-on-5, because we already know on that power play he's going to get points. But that's neither here nor there. That's just kind of the reality that we live in. And there's also no guarantee that these bottom two pairs we've seen at practice, Scotty, are going to be the bottom two pairs that we see, because while these are the first lines at drills on Monday, there were a couple other units that they tried out throughout practice. Obviously, JBD, cycled in with with Johansson at times. ASP might play third pair, but if this is what it looks like on Thursday, this is while it's still not a perfect decor, there are still holes. It's a better decor because ASP is in the lineup, because Holl is in Grand Rapids. And that's not me celebrating Gustafsson and Holl clearing waivers. I mean, these are human beings that are vying for a job and for a livelihood. And it's just the nature of the game. That's the business side of the game. And ASP, MBN, and Finnie all give you so much higher upside for this roster. Again, there's no guarantee they play to that upside because they're rookies. They're going to have moments where they struggle. But I'd rather watch this team, and I hope this team makes the playoffs, but the Atlantic Division is really tough. And I think that this could be a needle mover enough to get them there. But I'd rather watch this team miss the playoffs while watching the youth take huge strides forward and grow than watch this team miss the playoffs with the same vets that are on the final year of their contract that are going to be gone at the end of the year.
100%. You got to start the clock now, man. Like, you now have a window. You have your core pieces under contract long term. You have a window. The longer that you wait to call these guys up and get them acclimated to the NHL, the more time you are, honestly, for lack of a better term, wasting just middling, right? And not giving them an opportunity. So yeah, I agree with you. Even if it's now at a point where even if they were to miss the postseason, which I think this is the right move for trying to make the playoffs as well. I'm not saying it's a one or the other scenario, but even if they do miss out, you're still looking around going, okay, well, hopefully the young players take a step forward, get acclimated to the speed and size of the NHL, and maybe next year can take an even bigger step forward.
Yeah, I'm just really excited, man. At the end of the day, I'm just really excited.
Are you getting emotional?
And I'm not getting. I'm always emotional. Like, who are we talking about here? But I'm really happy because this is putting their best foot forward. This is giving them the best opportunity to make the playoffs in a really tough division because, again, I don't need to beat the dead horse. It's just the upside that they could provide is better than, is worth it, more worth it than the downside that they might have from struggling. It's putting their best foot forward. Scotty, talking about best foot forward, let's talk about individually, maybe production-wise, what we can expect from these guys in their rookie season. Let's be honest, it's going to be a little bit of a guessing game, but we'll do our best. Stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored job posts put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. We've all been in that spot where you need to hire somebody like yesterday, assuming you are a hirer. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now, you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockdown right now to support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need.
Indeed it is.
Scotty, do you think I could use that $75 sponsored job credit to post for a new co-host?
I think you probably could, and I think a lot of people would probably be happy with that, yeah.
I know I would be.
Get in line, man.
All right. Where were we going with this? All right, I derailed myself. Michael Brandsegg-Nygard. Let's start with him. Yeah, I know. I was trying to be funny, trying to get a cheap laugh. You just went with it, so it kind of ruined the joke, which I know is your favorite thing to do when I try to mess with you, is just go along with it and ruin the fun. Let's start with Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, Scotty. What should we realistically expect from him? Like, yes, I did seriously put $5 down on each of them to win the Calder. But, like, do I expect them to? No. And I think it would be a little down. But I'm just like, hey, if they win, that's $500. So, I mean, let's go. What should we realistically expect from Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, you think?
Yeah, based on what we've seen in the preseason, I mean, for starters, I've been unbelievably impressed. We've obviously documented that a lot. I think, especially if he ends up playing a lot of minutes with Comfer and Kopp, I'll be interested to see how he kind of meshes with them. I would love for that to turn into a defensive line, but one that can also actually score. I absolutely hated the shutdown line, as Lalone called it, that would go out there and play, 15 to 17 minutes a night, and it was going to be impossible for the Wings to score while they were on the ice. That drove me absolutely nuts. So from his perspective, I mean, I think it's really going to be about, is he a good two-way forward in the NHL immediately? Is there going to be tangible, noticeable defense in the NHL right away? We've already seen some good examples in the preseason. Does that carry over to the regular season? So that's one. Part two of that, I think, really is just goal scoring. Like, I don't expect him to be like some massive playmaker, but if he can be a two-way guy that's solid to even above average defensively right away and can get you 12 plus, 15 plus goals right away, that would be a fantastic addition to this bottom six.
Yeah, I think, and because that's going to be what it comes down to, is he's a goal scorer. What can we expect from him goal scoring wise? Like, if you were to set the over-under for Michael Brandsegg-Nygard's goal total, if I said 15.5,
yeah, I was going to do 14.5.
Okay.
Just so that 15 was, kind of the bar.
And I would set it higher if he was playing in a top six role, but knowing he's on a third line, that's full of, it's going to be a kind of grinded out forecheck heavy line, which is going to suit his play style. his minutes will be a little bit more limited because it's not the top 6. I think 14 and a half, 15 and a half is right where you said it. If he can go score above 15 goals in his rookie season and maybe have 15 to 20 assists, I mean, again, this is all assuming that each of these guys play 82 games.
Yeah,
if they struggle and they get sent down, obviously this doesn't apply. But in a perfect world where they stay up the whole season, I don't think 15 goals can be out of the realm of possibility for that line he's playing on. Again, it depends on how they're used, and we have yet to see how they're going to be used because that fourth line could also be used. That's the other crazy part. That fourth line could also be used in a forecheck heavy, grinded out style. So I think 15 goals, 30 assists, if around that benchmark as like the upper echelon of what we can expect would be a solid first year for MBN, and especially in a bottom 6 role.
I agree. And so again, the defense is included in that too, I think.
Yeah, and let's move on to ASP too, and the other first-round pick that made the team. This is another one that's so hard to. They're all so hard to predict because we've never seen them play in the NHL before. But we're talking about what kind of ceiling can we see from them realistically. This one, I think, has a much higher ceiling point production-wise. I think you could see, especially because I kind of expect them to shelter him and give him offensive zone deployments and power play minutes, upwards of above 50 or 40 points.
So my number was 40.
Yeah, 40 points from him. I don't know how the goals and assists will break down.
This is a rookie defenseman, but that is that's the player type, and that is assuming again that he gets minutes and they're heavily deployed in the offensive zone. I don't think that's entirely out of the question. I mean, we're talking scenario is he gets to around there, and honestly, like in my head, best case scenario is by the end of the season he's proven enough where he's the quarterback on power play 2. Like if you can get to a point where he is trusted that much, then I think that he's obviously proven, regardless of what the points technically are, that he's proven enough to kind of do that. But if he's even above 30, 35 points and isn't a traffic cone defensively, I mean, that's a win as a rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, these are all best case scenarios that we're talking about. Worst case scenario for all three would be they struggle and get sent down to Grand Rapids where they tear it up. So there's no point in doing a worst case scenario because the worst case is they're not on the team. Emmitt Finnie, Scotty, is, I think, the hardest one to predict because he is the one we've honestly seen the least out of prior to making the roster, right?
The biggest question mark probably on the whole roster.
He's a 7th-round pick that came out of nowhere and made the roster. And I know that he tore up his final year in Kamloops. I know in 2 brief stints with the Grand Rapids Griffins, he looked pretty comfortable. In particular, the second stint last year, I think he had 5 points in 10 games to end the regular season with the Griffins. But I don't know how much offense is in him. I don't know how refined his game is. Obviously, a huge motor, huge engine. He's a smart player. He earned his spot. I also don't know how long he's going to be playing on the top line because JVR's not back yet. And he is playing on the top line, which is a skill-heavy line. So he could, in theory, rack up a crap ton of assists by simply digging the puck out of the corner and feeding Raymond and Larkin.
Existing, yeah.
I don't know what to even set his ceiling at. Help me out here.
Brother, so my initial reaction was if he stays in that role, because that's the other thing. I would love for him to just take the spot and run with it, but I have a hard time believing that it would be fair for us to just be like, oh, he's going to play 82 games as a top liner immediately. That just seems. I mean, heck, I didn't think there was any possibility he was going to make the team, 2 weeks ago either. So, I guess maybe he's just going to continue to defy logic and exceed expectations. I think that for me, if he can be around half a point a game, that's probably a win, right? If he can be that guy that is digging out, like you mentioned, pucks in the corner, is solid enough defensively, getting those high motor, high effort plays, and then just making sure the puck goes to arguably your two best players on a consistent basis. That's all we really need. And I don't know. I think as a rookie 7th rounder, if he's going up there and getting, 40 to 45 points in his first season, that'd be a major win.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with my projection because I'm not, you know how I am. I'd rather be wrong and have the players exceed my expectations, a la ASP, right? Everyone thought ASP for the most, like all the media pundits were like, he's probably slated for Grand Rapids, and then he exceeded expectations. So I don't think I was necessarily wrong to think that going into the preseason. I'm going to say 30 points because just who he is, where he came from, where he was drafted, I almost expect at some point for him to hit a little bit of a wall. And I don't mean that negatively, but
no,
just
for sure. I also think, I mean, again, like
there's no guarantee he stays on the top line with JVR coming back.
Right. That was going to be my biggest point, was like my point projection was kind of under the assumption that he was playing 82 games at top line, assuming he doesn't, which I think is a very fair assumption. That
if he plays 82 games at the top line and he finishes with just 30 points, then
of course.
There's a different problem.
That wouldn't happen. Then he wouldn't play all 82 games at top line. Yeah.
So where your projection is like the absolute, and that's what we're trying to do, is the absolute best case. So I see where your head is at. I think I'm just like afraid to get hurt. So like I'm like gonna dial it back a little bit.
Can hurt you with a 7th round pick from 2 drafts ago, though, man. Like anything is something, and especially if he ends up being a top liner as a rookie, then that's a major win, regardless of what the point production really ends up being.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with 30 points, though. I think I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with that number. I get north of that, I get a little uncomfortable.
For sure. I think that's a lot more realistic.
Scotty, and again, that's best case scenario. He plays all 82 games, which is not a guarantee.
Right.
Scotty, I just want to mention, we don't have time to talk about it today. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow because we'll likely have more time, as that is going to be an off-day episode, so to speak, for us. Connor McDavid signs a 2-year extension with the Edmonton Oilers, maintaining his $12.5 million cap hit across those 2 additional years. So he is now officially locked in with Edmonton Oilers for 3 more years. This year, the final year in his current contract, and the following 2, the new extension. I have a lot of thoughts about that contract extension.
Same.
It is a prove-it contract, but it's not a prove-it contract for Connor McDavid.
Right.
We will talk about that tomorrow. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.